All right, Murlin. Good afternoon.
Good
Good to
afternoon,
see
Vicky.
you. Tell me your name, if you would like, and when you were born.
My name is Murlin Olson. I was born November 3rd, 1921 in rural Painesville.
Do you have a lot of memories from your early years of going to church at Nordland?
Oh yes, it's the only church I have ever attended regularly, except when I lived away from home with my relatives in the cities. We went to church down there. But I have lots of memories about, I guess the biggest thing was my dad getting the Model T started in the winter time. My mother liked to get to church every Sunday, and sometimes the weather did not cooperate. And it was not so easy to warm up the oil and get the thing limbered up, jack up a wheel and crank and pray.
And,
Hope it started.
and pray that it would start?
That's right.
I hear there's a story about your family and the altar at Nordland.
Well, my
What can you
grandfather built the altar, and my mother could remember that. She was about 8 or 9 years old, and he built it in the living room of their house. That house still stands. I think most of you know where the old Dollahug place is. And the power they used was a belt through the window to a shaft that turned the machinery. And when he wanted to speed up the turning lathe a little bit, why, he would just reach out through the window and tap the horse a little bit and speed him up. My mother could remember this.
What was your grandfather's name?
My grandfather was Diedrich Olson.
And your mother's name?
My mother's name was Jenny.
Okay.
Jenny Dahlhug
Uh-huh.
was her maiden name.
Okay. And that altar is absolutely beautiful. He was quite a carpenter.
He certainly must have been, because the machinery they had in those days, I told you what the power was a horse, and hand chisels and knives and stuff.
And you followed in his footsteps.
It would be hard to replace with today's machinery.
It certainly would.
But I guess,
Is that what inspired you to become a carpenter?
no, I don't think so. It maybe had something to do with it, but I just loved wood from the time I was a young man. When my father went to town to get groceries, I always gave him instructions, be sure you get wooden boxes, because I like to build things out of wooden boxes.
You'd take those boxes apart?
Sure, take them apart and make some of the ugliest birdhouses you ever saw. But that's how I started, hitting my fingers.
And did you raise your children by bringing them to Nordland?
Yes, that's the only church we ever went to. Yeah, that's right.
And what are their names?
And Douglas, Colleen, and Patty.
Do you have any memories of holidays, Christmas programs?
Especially.
Yes?
Yeah, especially in church. Yeah, that's right.
What can you remember about?
Well, I remember the fact that first I had to get the Christmas tree. We didn't just go and buy one. Somebody usually donated a nice big evergreen. And get that cut down and dragged up there. And all the windows had to be covered. We didn't have stained glass those days, and we wanted it to look like night, but we didn't want to go out at night, so we covered the windows by putting this red paper over them. And
That was kind of a big job
it was a big job.
because those are high, tall windows.
Yes, they are. And they'd hang these red and green ropes between all the lights,
Oh,
and then we'd have to hang, us kids would have to hang tinsel on the ropes. About every inch you'd hang a tinsel.
mm-hmm.
And, but
Did you put tinsel on the tree too?
oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. And then when there was offering, then we used to walk around the altar for certain holidays, and Christmas was one of them. And that was kind of fun.
Walk around the altar and put the
Put the money,
Money. on the altar?
on the altar, yeah.
And was that just the kids that did that?
No, everybody.
Everybody did.
Everybody. And then, of course, we got candy sacks.
Uh-huh.
That was,
Do you remember having to say a piece, memorize a piece?
yeah, I remember, I don't remember any of the pieces. Don't ask me to recite them.
But you remember that
That's
you,
what,
you had to do it.
That's what the program really consisted of, was each one had a piece, and then they'd all get together and sing, and the practice was the big thing. We had to wade through the snow on a snowy afternoon and practice this many times. Those teachers must have had a lot of patience. And that's how it was done in those days.
Can I jump back to that altar?
Yeah.
Wasn't there something about that wood being promised for something else?
Oh yes, that was supposed to be Grandma's bedroom set. He made his own furniture, of course. But the church needed an altar, so that's where the wood went. In those days, we cut the wood, and they'd have to dry maybe 8-10 years before. Well, I'm sure this didn't dry that long, but had to dry thoroughly before they could build something without it. Otherwise, it would warp and twist out of shape.
What did your grandmother think about that?
I don't suppose she was too happy.
You never.
But I'm glad she was glad to give it to church.
Okay, let's go back to Christmas. What about decorating the tree? You said, were there ornaments that were bought or made?
I really can't tell. Now, I know they used, for electricity, they used wood, regular candles, wax candles.
Oh, do you remember
But I do
that?
not remember that.
Don't remember that?
No,
Okay.
I don't remember that part. But,
What about, did you have like a late church service like we do now?
a late?
On Christmas Eve? Like 10, 11 o'clock?
On New Year's Eve, they used to have a special, a New Year's wake, they called it.
Okay,
We'd have to sit up there until midnight.
sit until midnight.
Yeah.
Do you remember any real blizzards when you had a hard time getting to church or getting home? Or
About one a week.
One a week.
It was always a chore. We had a long driveway, over a quarter of a mile, and if it blew at all, my dad and I, when I got big enough to handle a shovel, we used to go side by side and clear the road, whether we were going to church or to town or whatever. It was always a chore.
And you're talking horse and buggy? Or you're
No,
talking
I
cars?
don't remember ever going to church in a buggy or with horses. I remember the barn, the horse barn, which stood west of the church. where the evergreens are now, but I do not remember a horse being in it.
Was there just one horse barn?
Oh, no, there was room for quite a few teams. I don't know how many. I don't remember.
But one barn?
Yeah.
One
yeah.
barn along the
Yeah,
west side
one
there.
lawn.
So that was when you were young and you remember playing in that barn, or just?
Well, not especially. I remember it being there. I don't remember being out there much, because the cars were just coming in at that time, and the horses were going out, I guess.
Huh.
But, and then another thing I remember, across the front of the church, we had a wrought iron fence all the way across. I don't know where that ever went to, but or why it was there, I don't know. But
Like a gate? You had to go through a gate, or?
Just a walking. I don't remember many details about it, but I do remember that steel fence.
So you were involved in a lot of the carpentry at Nordland.
I was Ray and Bob Anderson and myself built the Sunday school rooms, and we done lots of small things like putting up a railing up in, what do you call it, a belfry,
Yeah.
and small things like that. But,
Well, before you had all those Sunday school rooms, where did you have Sunday school?
oh, we had Sunday school. I'm glad you mentioned that. Each class had a certain pew where we would sit with our teacher. First we'd meet all together and sing some beautiful songs or something, and then we'd separate into classes with our teachers and sit in the pew. That was just scattered around the church.
So you always just paid attention to your teacher, and there was probably a lot of talking going on, but everybody was concentrated on their own.
Oh, some of each it was. But there's a lot of pleasant. Those poor teachers, they must have had a lot of patience, because they didn't have much to work with. They put together the programs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't have the technology like today.
No.
Is that
no,
what you mean?
No videos or anything.
Right. Right.
No.
Well, you mentioned singing. You've always been in the choir?
Yes, I guess I was 20 years in the choir. That I enjoyed. That was a lot of fun.
What part did you sing?
Bass.
Always a bass?
Yeah.
Did you have music in school?
No, I don't think you can call it that. We always sang, a song or two in the morning in grade school.
Oh, yeah.
But I have no no music instructions.
No real training.
No.
It just came naturally.
It's just-
That's what you did at church, right?
That's right. That's right. That was our practice.
Well, what about things that the church did as for instance, Mission Fest? Well, let's start with Mission Fest.
Yeah, that was a big day. That was a big day at the community park when we would. To start the day before, there was a committee to go out and gather cream.
Cream?
In those days, farmers had cows and lots of cream to make ice cream.
Uh-huh.
And then ice cream freezers were run by a gasoline engine, and you could always hear that thing popping away, and that was a good sound. Ice cream was being made, and
Kids like that, I bet.
yeah, especially if we could run and find some wild strawberries to put on it. Oh, that was good.
Oh, so you had wild strawberries.
Oh, yeah.
Later
Oh, yeah.
on, we had people that raised or got the strawberries out of their garden.
Oh, yeah. There was some of that too, I'm
Yeah.
sure, but I remember the wild ones. And I think they were just a little bit better.
Think so? A little sweeter?
I don't know. Maybe it was the fact we had to work so hard to find them.
And that was a whole day spent at the park.
Yeah, that's right.
How old were you before they made you do some work at the park, at the Mission Fest?
Oh dear, I don't know. I don't know if I started that yet. But pleasant memories. We'd meet old friends that we hadn't seen for a few years, and of course that pertained more to the older folks. We were kids at that time.
Right. Do you remember your mother working hard at the Mission Fest?
Oh yes, they
Out
always had their jobs.
peeling potatoes and
Yeah, they all had their jobs, and I guess the big job was moving everything from the church for the day. All the chairs
right.
and stuff. They had trucks hauling the stuff down there and hauling it back. What a chore! But everybody enjoyed it, I guess. It's a great day. Oh, we used to have a mission speaker in the forenoon.
The same day?
I think it was the same day. Maybe later it became another day, but I think it was in the morning, forenoon.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a service.
Was that at the lake too, or was it at the church?
Yes. At
Oh, so that
lake.
was first at the lake.
Yeah.
Did they have the auction after the meal? An auction of quilts and
yes.
things?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. That was at 2:00.
Oh, always at 2.
Yeah.
Never changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yes. That was a big day.
So getting back to those Sunday school rooms, were you the contractor of that project?
Yes. That's right.
Did you help draw it out and work with the Sunday school superintendent to?
I think we had a committee to work with what they wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and then we just went ahead and built it. Somewhere in one of these records is that I had something to do with the front entrance.
Yes.
That's not right.
You didn't?
I didn't have a thing to do with that. Carl Chestnut was the man that kind of had charge of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because those steps that we walk up to church, they were out in the elements, right? That wasn't enclosed.
Yeah, that was out in the elements, and there was a big wide banister of cement on either side of the steps.
Uh-huh.
And it used to be so much fun to slide down the cement banisters. The parents did not like it because it was very hard on both shoes and pants. But I remember that very distinctly, and I'm sure it's still in there. They're covered up, I suppose. Or were they knocked out? I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember a lot of events that were held in the basement of the church?
Oh yes, there's lots of things in the basement.
That kitchen in the basement was probably built and put together in your time.
Oh yes, yeah, I remember that. A lot of changes in the basement, but the memory gets a little foggy there because I don't remember the dates or anything.
Yeah.
But,
But I bet a lot of people served at ice cream socials and
oh yeah.
wedding receptions and that kind of thing.
They had lutefisk supper up there and served 1,000 people
Really?
with the old basement.
In the old basement.
Yeah, right.
That is amazing.
People would sit up in the church proper and wait for their number to be called
Uh-huh.
and come down and eat lutefisk.
What was your part in the lutefisk supper? What did you get to do?
Eat. No, I didn't have much to do with it. I remember the men had a shed out in back where they would cut the fish up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have Jeb's haul it from St. Paul, Olson Fish Company, and they'd haul it up there by tubs, and then the fish had to be cut up and get ready for the ladies to cook.
And people came from all around.
They must have.
You must have.
Yeah,
Bring
must
1,000 people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now, I asked you about your children. I never asked you about your wife. What was her name?
My wife's name was Edna. Her maiden name was Borgström, Edna Borgström. She was raised in Candy, Ohio, born in Nebraska, but moved up to Minnesota as a young girl, and that's where I found her. Where I found her was in District 19. She was teaching school there, and I was in the service and home on leave. And wouldn't you know, my folks had the job of cleaning the schoolhouse. That had to be done every, I don't know how often, but I went with them down there, and she was working down there. That was all it took. 55 years of it.
Now, where was that schoolhouse located from the church?
Oh, the schoolhouse. Everybody knows where the schoolhouse was.
It's gone now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Who lives by it now? Or near it?
The closest one would be used to be a Voss, but now it's you know who lives on that road?
I can't think either.
Now we had from my home, which was where Dan and Marie Diedrich live right now.
Okay.
That's where I was raised.
Yep.
And we just had to cut. We didn't have to go on the road at all. We went kitty corner across that block to the southeast, and that's where the schoolhouse was.
So, is it by Hislop's Road, on Hislop's Road?
Yeah. Yeah.
And across the road is Schmidt?
Smith is that the name I'm looking for? Oh, I'm
I
not sure.
know there were bricks there when we moved out in that neighborhood, in that
Oh.
corner there.
Oh yeah, I was on that corner.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the schoolhouse was.
Same road as Eleanor and Harlan,
Yes.
Nepson,
Yes,
and Dale and Joyce Hislop.
You just go that
Clayton.
road east to the first crossroad.
Okay, that was District 19.
That was District 19.
Okay.
And
So
when
you
I
covered-
started, the first day of school, that District 19 was brand new. The old one burnt up.
Oh,
My dad, to get me started not being afraid of school, took me across the road and we played in the ashes of the old schoolhouse.
oh my
That was
goodness.
just across the road to the south.
Okay.
You know,
So,
I do not remember the school at all. I remember only 19.
was your dad involved in building that school?
No, that was a WPA project.
Oh,
Yeah. No,
interesting.
yeah. that one and District 20 and I think 24. They were all WPA projects,
Okay.
and some of the local men got work.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So you said again that you pretty much went across the field to go to school?
Yes, we did.
Even, did you have older brothers and sisters? I mean, when you were 5
No,
or 6,
I was
they didn't just say, bye, Murlin.
I was the oldest, and then I had a very good friend, Harold Nelson, who lived close to where George Peterson used to live.
Okay.
And we were good friends, so we'd always walk together.
Mm-hmm.
And then there got to be, I had an old aunt that lived on the Dallog place, which is down in that old corner again. And she used to come and walk, and she's celebrating her 104th birthday now in January.
Oh, wow. Well, you're having a birthday this fall too, yeah, aren't you?
Yeah, November.
Yes?
Yeah.
And which one will you be celebrating?
I'll be celebrating 93.
93.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you look up in the camera and smile? Up here, there you go.
It's not funny.
Smile. Oh, that's a milestone. They're all milestones.
Well, that's pretty nice of you to put all this together. I mean, get the camera and...
And you think of anything, and even if you think of more things, that would be fine. We'll do it again.
Uh-huh.
We'll just kind of, and we'll try to edit this so that it flows. And
Sure.
but if you can think of anything else, we can keep on. Otherwise, you've done 27 minutes here.
Oh, that's plenty.
So that's pretty good.
That's plenty.
All right.
Yeah, that's...
Very good.
Okay.
See if I know how to